So our last presenter this morning is Deidre Berger. She is the chair of the board of directors of the JDCRP, the Jewish Digital Cultural Recovery Projects Foundation, which aims at creating a database of Jewish-owned cultural objects plundered by the Nazis and their allies. It is a joint initiative of the Commission for Art Recovery and the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany. Prior to that, she headed the AGC Berlin Reimer Institute for German-Jewish Relations for 20 years and was a senior European Affairs advisor to the American Jewish Committee. She's also a member of numerous boards and advisory committees, and we are very happy to have her here today and speak on and tell us about the JDCRP project. Thank you, Deidre.
Thank you so much, Sophie, and hello, thank you for the invitation, and hello to everyone. I know a lot of people, I can't mention everyone individually, but just say I'm particularly pleased to see Avishag Ben Yosef and Ruth van den Buske, who worked on our pilot project, which will be mentioned. We don't have much time, so I will start. And that's Mafish. No? Yeah, okay, that's his full script. Prima. Good. Dann fange ich, Sie sehen das aus. Okay, dann erkläre ich ganz kurz, es ist ein bisschen anders als die anderen Präsentationen, weil wir haben selber kein, I'm sorry, this is in English. We don't have ourselves archival material. We're trying to create a database that will link everyone's data material. So the reason, just a little background, as we know, millions of objects were robbed by the Nazis, their allies and collaborators. Hundreds of thousands remain missing. Michael Hopp recently gave a very interesting presentation at the German History Museum where she explained that it's impossible actually to quantify. We would all like to, but I think at the moment so much is missing in terms of the gaps in documentation research that we're not there yet. Everything are just wild guesstimates. As we know, and as we've just heard from different presentations, there is a lot of archival material. It is cataloged, a lot that we didn't hear about. It's scattered across different archives. There's different versions at different archives. There's deteriorating archival material. And what we just heard, it lacks indexing and often digitization, not at the Bundesarchiv and Deutsches Historisches Museum, but there's a lot of other material we're talking about. A number of you have referred to the 1998 Washington Conference and the principles, and Marie Obernow said at the beginning that it called for a central registry. And as we know, there still is no comprehensive documentation, despite the really great work being done with Lostad and Proviana, but that's a more focused and detailed database at the moment. So thusly, there was contact amongst a number of archives. There was an initial project, the ERR Jeu de Paume database that was created by Mark Wazarowski, that was funded by the Jewish Claims Conference. And this brought together a number of different archives that they met a number of times, representatives, and said, yes, we would like to have this central registry. And so in 2019, the Jewish Digital Cultural Recovery Project Foundation was created in order to establish the central archive and to bring together partner organizations. And we would, as we've seen before, there's front end and back end, and we'd like to be a resource for both. Our goals is not just to help people locate objects, which of course is always the primary goal, but to demonstrate the integral role of cultural theft in the Holocaust. It's very little known, this theft. I personally studied art history, and I really did not understand anything close to the dimensions of what we're talking about and the purpose. And I think, as we're sadly seeing with Ukraine right now, and the many attempts, and I'm sure a lot of you are involved with attempts to help save the cultural heritage of Ukraine. I mean, there are a lot of desperate appeals that we're hearing, and a lot of people, there's already networks of people trying to help. And the reason, as we're also hearing from President Zelensky, which is true, is that cultural theft is a way to try and to really exterminate not just the physical presence of people, but all traces of their lives, their history, and their culture. And that's why it's essential to bring this information together to get a much better idea of European cultural heritage. It was so large, this theft, that until we have a better understanding of the framework and the dimensions of what happened, it's very difficult to appreciate what was lost. And we also would like to achieve a measure of moral justice. I mean, in the end, most objects sadly will not find their way back to owners, although we would like to facilitate it wherever possible. But alone, knowing for many families what happened, at least, is already a step forward. And knowing that on such a large scale, the attempt is being made to restore objects, I think I've heard from a lot of families, it's very important for them in trying to find a resolution with what's happened in their past. We are trying to do it now to link the source data, because as we know, the material disappears too easily, even in this modern day and age. Things that have been scanned, it's old methods, it's not linked. In some countries, it's not valued. So today we have more possibilities to undertake this. And I think I've heard this morning from all the various presentations that we're all really at the beginning of this. And Proviana and Lost Art, a big shout out, because you've made amazing progress showing us with modern digital means what we can begin imagining is possible. So what we plan to do is chronicle and trace the objects to have an object-based data platform as well as possible, to commission research. We're not a research institute, but we would like to encourage research projects, and we already had a very interesting pilot project that I mentioned before, the fate of the Schloss collection, that shows in detail, helps us understand the meaning of what happened when the collections were confiscated for the victims, who the perpetrators were, what happened, the journey, so to speak, of the objects, to understand more about the mechanics of how it was possible to perpetrate a crime of this scale. We also would like to focus on education and provide learning scenarios that especially young people can use, because as we sadly are losing the generation of survivors, what we're left with are objects and places. And places is another topic I've also worked on with sites of mass graves, but we have the objects. And for young people, when we improve the search aids, we will be able to more easily, if for someone, they can say, in my town, I know there was this in this family, and they had an art collection. And it gives them a personal link, and it will help them be able to understand more about the lives of the people involved. We plan to make the source data digitally accessible, and this is something we really are going to base this data platform on the archival documents, which is a new approach that, I mean, other databases have elements of this, but we would really like to focus on it. Really public source material, which other databases are also, I think it's the new standard, and the cross-searching. And this is, as we know, very tricky. And we're working with a lot of experts to try and figure out the best ways to create better search mechanisms. And we hope, I mean, we want to work with everyone who was presenting and many more who are on this, on the Zoom, because it will help all of us. And it's this linkage that we hope we can, is the extra thing that we can provide. it will provide more context on the theft, obviously, if we can more easily link amongst the archival sources. And this is useful not just within the context of the museum world, of auction houses, of the whole art world, although it's of great importance for them, but also for a more general public to whom we would like to reach out to tell the story of the Holocaust. And we hope this way also to facilitate more contact amongst archives. We've held a few meetings, but we want to do a lot more because we think we can all learn a lot from each other. We're working right now on trying to develop a more scalable IT architecture, and I have to say already, thanks to Ruth van den Boeske, whose diagram I'm showing, and through APIs, creating access points, extract, clean up, and migrate data. Although, as we know, that's also not such an easy matter, but to do it as well as we can, to use machine learning, character name recognition software where possible. And it'll always be a mixture of manual entry and OCR and other name entity recognition software. And eventually, the best we can, start creating relationships among data sets to tell the stories of people, the individuals involved, the journeys of the objects. And of course, the web visualization is a very important element of what we do. The very next project that we have is to start with the ERR registry cards, which is part of the Jeu de Paume database, and to try and compile all the information from the different sources, which is scattered, and create a searchable database, which I think would help us all. And then further archives, and hello to Brandenburg State Archives. There's several representatives also on the call. Shipping registers from the German Maritime Museum. There's different records that we can, perpetrator records that we can add layer by layer once we establish the basic platform. We've also just launched a central registry on persecuted Jewish artists. This is a little different. It's will be integrated into the database. It will be a basic overview of the Jewish artists and hopefully provide a basis that others can do more detailed research, the same for Jewish collectors. And we also envision starting quite soon the development of learning scenarios with college students at first, but also with high school students. And as I said, that will be developed in parallel to whatever we're doing, because we need to start the outreach now. Time is really of the essence. If we have one more minute, I can just show you our, direct you to, there's further information about the history of what we're doing, what's planned, and also importantly, can I open this here, the pilot project, the Schloss, oh, it's not opening here, but the fate of the Schloss collection. You can find the database here, and this should give you some more detailed information on what we're doing.